What's up, gang? Kawaii50 here with yet another fake Grand Order servant breakdown. Here to talk about the beautiful, the 360 no-scope, the Poggers, Fortnite-chan herself, Summer Osakabehime. Ah, man. Best summer servant in years. But my personal biases aside, we're going to be talking about every aspect of Summer Osakabehime, her stats, her skills, craft essences, command codes, and allies, what you need to ensure that she will become your little Pog champ. And if this video helps you out, be sure to go ahead, like, and subscribe. Osakabehime's deck is quick, 3 arts, and 1 buster, with a 4-hit AoE buster Noble Phantasm. Her max HP of 12,476 is honestly pretty solid, but her max attack of 8,895 is a little bit on the lower side. This, however, can be shored up a little bit because of her archer class. Being an archer class servant means that she has an incredibly high star absorption and will likely be stealing all of those critical stars from all of her allies. Also of note is her NP per hit at a 0.62%. This is pretty solid at base, but considering she has 3-hit arts cards and the ability to arts Brave Chain, well, charging Noble Phantasm isn't really that big of an issue. Osakabehime's first skill is Shooting FPS, rank B. This increases her critical strength for 3 turns, and it lasts for 3 attacks. For those 3 attacks, you're going to be getting a 30 to 50% crit strength increase. This also gives her an evade, which lasts for 1 turn, but it only evades 1 time, not necessarily for the entire turn. Because of how bare bones this evade is, you're mainly going to want to use this skill to increase Osakabehime's critical strength, and focus on the survivability from her support servants. I recommend leveling this skill last. A 30% critical damage boost is already a pretty solid bonus. If we got more instances of evade, I would fast track this, but unfortunately, that is not the case. Osakabehime's second skill is Princess Summer Vacation Fake, rank A. For 3 turns, an opponent has to be the target focus of your entire team. The trade-off for this is that you increase the attack of all allies by 10 to 20% for 3 turns, and give them 3 turns of sure hit, which means the enemy's evade is not an issue. This isn't really that big of an issue on boss fights, mainly because, well, you're fighting the boss. The boss is your main target. And when it comes to farming, if you manage to destroy the enemy you have the target focus on, say you target an incredibly weak enemy and follow up with an AoE Noble Phantasm, well, then this demerit goes away. It really isn't that big of a deal. Max this skill second. Osakabehime's final skill is her main damage dealing focus, and the one I recommend you level first, and that is Chiyogami Battalion Commander, rank EX. This gives her a 20 to 30% increase to her arts and buster card effectiveness for 3 turns. This is going to also directly affect her NP gain, as well as her Noble Phantasm damage. This is a very solid damaging buff, and what you mainly want to use with Osakabehime. Even though she can be a little bit of a pseudo support thanks to that second skill, you're going to find far more use out of her as a damage dealer. For Osakabehime's append skill, I solely recommend mana loading, allowing her to begin the battle with a 10 to 20% NP charge. Since she doesn't have an NP charge skill of her own to help with farming, this plus a kaleidoscope can be a very good way to add her to your buster farming repertoire. And people who are following what's going on with JP, this might be a good thing to plan for. Osakabehime's Noble Phantasm is the 1000 Origami of Hakuro Milli Milli Night Fever, rank EX. This deals 300 to 500% damage to all enemies, and on overcharge it increases the buster card effectiveness for all allies and critical strength for all allies by 3 turns. And this is a 20 to 40% increase on buster and a 30 to 50% increase on crit damage. Unfortunately, this does not activate before damage is dealt, which means Osakabehime's Noble Phantasm doesn't really benefit from this, and how I wish it did. Osakabehime's Noble Phantasm is a fairly serviceable AoE Noble Phantasm, but because this doesn't activate before damage, it makes it so there really isn't anything that stand out about it. But what allies can we give Osakabehime to ensure that she is properly fueled by both Doritos and Mountain Dew? Of course, you want to give her your Buster supporters. Merlin has a ton of Doritos on hand, and of course, Koyanskaya is able to properly supply the Mountain Dew, allowing her to potentially farm as well as take on challenge quests. However, beyond that, there are some other allies that you can put on Osakabehime's team that are going to be able to help drastically increase her KDA. Also, did I say KDA? I meant KDR. Got too much of that League of Legends on the brain, my dudes. Let's start with freebie options, and we'll start in the form of a fairly new one on NA, Bart Roberts. Bart Roberts, of course, can provide Osakabehime with a critical NP strength boost that she unfortunately doesn't have access to. But what is of more importance is his Pirate Gentleman skill. This allows Osakabehime to get an extra 20 to 40% increase on her critical damage, and this lasts for 3 turns, not just for 3 attacks, so you can get quite a bit of mileage out of this. Also, the fact that this decreases Bart's own critical star gather rate means Osakabehime is free to gobble up all of those stars. And speaking of servants that can help with critting, let's of course talk about Hans Christian Andersen. Human Observation is of course an incredible critical strength buff, granting 10 to 40% critical strength for 3 turns, with very little investment considering he is a 2-star servant. Of course, his buffed up Little Mermaid's Love rank EX supportive skill will also allow Osakabehime to gain 5 to 10% NP gauge every turn for 3 turns, as well as 5 to 15 critical stars, fueling not only her chance to use her Noble Phantasm, but her overall critical damage as well. Of course, let's not forget about the Noble Phantasm from Hans, which can provide Osakabehime with a much needed attack boost. Of course, there needs to be an ally that can help Osakabehime with, say, Warzone, Fortnite, PUBG, whatever she's playing. Well, why not give her somebody with a Gatling gun, like, say, Nightingale Santa. Nightingale Santa can increase her NP damage by 20 to 30% while providing her with a Guts. And her Bell, which the Angel rings on a Holy Knight skill, her third one, well, that's a 10 to 20% attack increase for Osakabehime, as well as a 20 to 30% critical strength increase. Nightingale's Noble Phantasm, while being quick type, which is a little strange pairing with a Buster type servant, well, it can decrease the defense for all enemies for 3 turns. So you can use this, follow up with Osakabehime's Noble Phantasm, which increases all the allies' Buster effectiveness and critical strength, and well, you've got a lot of damage going that enemy's way. Plus, Nightingale Santa's an archer, Osakabehime's an archer. You're probably bringing them both to fight the same kind of enemy, an enemy that's weak against them. And let's of course give out some kind of bonus to our card manipulators. Of course, Artoria Pendragon being one of the most recent examples, as well as the much beloved by me Summer BB. Both of these servants allow for card manipulation, and they are able to provide Osakabehime with bonuses in different ways. Looking at Artoria Pendragon Ruler in the future, after she receives the buff to her Royal card skill, this will grant Osakabehime an increase to her NP gain, which helps with those 3 arts cards she has, as well as another 30 to 50% crit damage boost, while of course randomly dealing 5 new command cards, where you can get somebody out of there that you don't want getting those cards. BB, of course, is a little simpler and more readily available right now on NA, mainly her Faceless Moon skill, allowing you to lock command cards in place, having Osakabehime benefit from that critical damage boost, and you're also providing Osakabehime with stars every single turn. And finally, of course, let's give some Buster love to Queen Himiko. Himiko's Priestess's Charisma skill, fantastic. An attack boost as well as 8 critical stars each turn for all allies. That is a beefy amount of critical stars. On top of that, her Noble Phantasm will increase Osakabehime's Buster card effectiveness, as well as increasing her NP overcharge level by 2. If you look at a just base level 1 Noble Phantasm for Osakabehime, combined following up Himiko's skill, well, let's go ahead and do some math. Oh man, are we actually able to reach 300% overcharge even if we used Osakabehime's Noble Phantasm first? What? That's going to be a 400% because of NP placement? Hold on. You're telling me if we put Osakabehime's Noble Phantasm last, we can reach the 500% overcharge at NP1. And this means a 40% Buster effectiveness boost and a 50% critical strength boost for all allies for 3 turns? Man, I wish that activated before damage was dealt. I really wish that was the case. Still, pretty good. For craft essences, when it comes to farming, of course, your go-to is the K-Scope. 80 to 100% starting NP gauge, that's just going to help you with farming, period. If you're looking for an option that's more of a freebie option, something that can help Osakabehime in the average player's day-to-day life, let's start, of course, with Aerial Drive, granting Buster Card effectiveness, NP strength, and a starting 30 to 50% NP gauge. A lot of people also really like Welcome to Oniland on Osakabehime. If you manage to pull this during the Oniland event, here is a good chance to use it. This grants her Buster and Arts Card effectiveness, as well as a starting NP gauge. And finally, I really like Starry Nights. If you have the opportunity to give this to Osakabehime, do so for boss battles. A Buster Card effectiveness boost, a critical strength boost, and a starting NP gauge. These are all things Osakabehime wants. And when it comes to command codes, well, if you're looking for an optimal budget option, just overload Osakabehime with crit damage, starting, of course, with Code Burst, a nice, friendly freebie option that a lot of archers can really take advantage of. But, of course, there are other command codes you can give her. Starting with Mistress of the Heavens. Engrave this on her singular Buster card, and this will increase the critical damage of that card by 25%. If you don't have that as an option, there's also, of course, the Blades of Niten Doraku, granting a 20% instead. Of note as well on any of her other cards is Star Eradicating Wicked Holy Sword. This increases the critical damage she deals to Saber enemies by 25% on the engraved card. You're likely bringing Osakabehime to fight Sabers, so why don't you go ahead and boost her damage against them. Of course, if you're also looking for some sort of bonus for her as well, consider Star Gather CEs on her arts cards. Things like Immature Illusionary Command Seal or equivalents will ensure that she is able to maximize her Noble Phantasm gains. Overall, gang, Osakabehime is a serviceable summer servant that finds more of a home dealing damage than providing any sort of support. She does have the capabilities to do that with her second skill, but you are going to be able to pull more of her potential out of her by making her your main archer damage dealer. AoE Noble Phantasm does have some problems, of course, starting with reduced damage, so it doesn't work nearly as well against bosses, and I really wish that Buster effectiveness activated before damage is dealt. Also, the fact that she doesn't have a personal NP steroid means there might be some issues having her as a farmer. But if you're willing to invest in her, if you're willing to focus mainly on that critical damage boost, focus mainly on burning down bosses, focusing on that singular target, then I think you will find a very serviceable archer in Osakabehime. I'm going to use her just because I love her, but she is a decent archer at the end of the day. There are better ones out there, but there are definitely worse ones too. But of course, I want to know what you all think, so let me know your thoughts about Summer Osakabehime down in the comments section below. Let me know if there are any allies you think I missed, as well as craft essences or command codes as well. If you've got a fun team that you're using her on, go ahead and chuck that in the comments section. And if you were rolling for her, or if you have any other standout servant from the Summer 4 event, why don't you go ahead and mention them down below as well. If you want to talk more FGO somewhere besides the YouTube comments section, my Discord is of course always available. I want to give a big thanks to, of course, all of you subscribers on YouTube, but also the subscribers on Twitch, those who support me on Patreon, and the followers on Twitch as well. I get a lot of support from you guys, and it's what really makes me want to come out and do these videos every single day. So massive thank you to all of you. Anyways, this is Kawaii50. I hope you all have a phenomenal day, and I'll see you all in the next video.